In eastern Nigeria, Governor Otti of Abia State says he has not borrowed funds to execute project since he assumed office. The governor stated this during the monthly interactive session with journalists in Umuahia, the Abia State capital. Chinwe Ugele has details.
The government embarked on a number of projects that require a lot of capital to execute, hence the possibility of the government taking loans. Governor Otti agrees that a time will come when his government will access loans, but explained that so far the projects were being done with federal allocation and internally generated revenue.
Also know of other options that may not necessarily put the state in further debt. What we can rest assured is that in terms of financial engineering and management of the finances of the state, you cannot get any better than that. So no atom or fleecy will be concluded.
On the alleged complaints by some civil servants on incomplete payment of their salaries, the governor encouraged the workers to take steps at resolving the situation. Some workers in Abia State had expressed displeasure over the continued payment of incomplete salaries to them since May 2023.
And I say anybody whose salary has not been paid completely should complain. Though we do not have any policy of short changing them. There is no such policy. If there is an error, of course, it should be corrected.
He further disclosed that the cattle market at Umuahia is to function as a general market as a way of stemming the tide of insecurity in that community and its environs. He said he is desperate for the state to develop and would make policies that will inconvenience criminals for the state to thrive.
Have devices, we've installed electronic equipment that tell us what is happening in every part of the state. A few weeks ago, we found out that a lot of the ransom that was paid for kidnapping ended up somewhere around the beach.
And to discuss this further, I have with me in the studio a chartered accountant, Akin Fatunke. Good morning, Mr. Fatunke. Glad to have you join me.
Always a pleasure, Adebola. Nice to be here. Good morning, Nigerians.
Fantastic. Now, what key sectors and areas of the nation's economy do you think are likely to get this funding of 2.176 trillion naira supplementary budget? And why would you consider them, critical in receiving these funds?
A later answer to your quest first. I make a general comment here by saying, better late than never, this ought to have come long before now in the life of this administration. Having said that, now we are here. Security is so important, and I believe 605 billion, which the Minister for Bagudu, the Honorable Minister for Defense has reeled out there, is so very, very, very important. The Minister for Budget and Planning has reeled out there, is so very key, so they will benefit. I am awesomely happy that the lingering feud that has gone between the Labour and government will now get a bit of a lift, some 200 billion plus, to look for wage supplementation. That looks very kind to me, albeit it's going to be looking at 1.5 million employees of the federal government. Now, what happens to the remainder? Well, the conditional cash transfer that we also spoke about is coming on. I want to believe that, one, the 35,000 naira wage that we given, and then the conditional transfer, that's 25,000 to some 15 million also will be a very nice aspect. I am very happy that infrastructure is not at the back end. We're talking about roads, intermodal roads, and when you plug this with security, and then you have solid minerals smiling at the center, and digital print also smiling at the center, I foresee a situation where even a Greek will benefit from this. All put together, nice areas of intervention, including education funding, will benefit. Those are the areas.
Now talking about benefits, Mr. Fatunke, let's narrow down to benefit, like you're rightly pointing out. What are the economic impact or benefit of these supplementary budgets? Looking at it closely from the point of economic growth, job creation, and also the overall fiscal stability, particularly in the context of Nigeria's present financial reality.
I say yes, you can only attain growth, development in a peaceful atmosphere. I'm particularly happy that we are going to likely see some measure of calm and peace, at least for the next 3 months, because all what we are looking at now is just for the short term. I think we are going to see some good growth there. I mentioned the fact that Mr. President is insistent that the educational funding is going to take off, and we have some funds to look into that area. So we have some relative place. Social investment schemes about roads, intermodal. Again, when you just oppose that with security, which I still feel, in my honest opinion, we are still not getting much. But the minister, Bagudu, did actually say, we are making some progress in there, to the extent that it will continue to save or reduce the lives of our armed forces. I think I see it as areas of growth. I also see an area of growth to stimulate, because these are just stimulant. This is where fiduciary and the policy aspect of the commanding heights are getting the kind of keys that we are looking at. And with that in place, I think we are likely to get growth in the short term. It can be sustained. Tax reforms that I will lead what the CBN governor is trying to see at the foreign exchange market down the effects. I think we are likely, again, I delineate that in the short term. Hopefully it will be sustained.
Now, a lot of persons are very concerned regarding, how we're doing financially as a country. They're looking at the fact that how we funding for these supplementary budgets be sourced. There are concerns as to whether this would impact, potentially the fiscal deficit or perhaps our public debt as a nation.
Adebola, very great, fantastic question there. And in the mind of a chartered accountant like me and a financial person, that is really the question. Where is it going to be funded from? Some will be funded from the World Bank 800 billion loan that was given by way of conditional transfer. Some 400 billion will be going to the digital prints that looks at the poorest of the poor. I hope we'll be able to get those poorest of the poor. But the wider angle, in my mind, might be coming. You see, because when you talk about budget, Alhaji Bagudu told us where we are going to be going. We need to see. Traditionally, we talk about funds flow. Where will this funding come from? I suspect that some of the gains that we've had in the wider tax net, Nami, before his exit, talked about the fact that we have had substantial input in tax revenue. I believe that is now expanded, but I'm concerned. Come to think of it, I'm concerned. Subsidy gone, okay, subsidy back. Where are these funds coming from? Are they coming from additional borrowing? I think that needs to be properly spelled out to us. I didn't hear anything in that direction.
Okay.
I believe that the government perhaps has enough in its kitty, needs to clarify that a little
If I may
bit
just quickly chip in, because we're running out of time, Mr. Fatunke, you made reference to part of this budget coming from the World Bank, but all of these funds from the World Bank often come with interest. Looking at that, don't you think that would add to our debt ratio as a country, further add to our debt ratio as a country, when you're paying interest on all of these funds we're getting from the World Bank?
Soft interest this will be. The World Bank has decided not to give the normal, because coming into government, seeing the kind of bold reforms that were coming, the World Bank felt they can give some soft loans and give some moratorium. It's not so much the quantum of loan that matters, is the efficiency of the loan and what is going for. Now, we're talking about infrastructure here. We're talking of stemming labor unrest. We are talking about making sure that intermodal roads and security is concerned. I think from internally generated, I am still assuming that the internally generated is much more enough to help us in that direction. And even if we now then decided that in 2024, hopefully we are going to look at that budget also, it's going to now be going to borrow additional. If it's going to be efficient, it's going to be for infrastructure, if it's going to be for production, then we are home and dry.
All right, this is almost wrap up the conversation. Thank you so much for your expertise. Chartered Accountant, Mr. Akin Fatunke, thank you for your time this morning on the news.
Thank you very much, Adebola. It's going to be well for our country.